And with that, we should be live. Yep, YouTube Studios have given me the green light. Let me close out OBS here. Change my view off of studio mode just so I can get a better picture of what my output is. Alrighty, fellow hobby enthusiasts. Today we're taking a bit of a break from the Commandos, and I'm going to paint a Stormcast Eternal. I did a little bit of a black armor painting experiment based off of the previous conversation I had with you guys last stream about painting black armor. And I found a process that I quite like. You can see here on this test Stormcast Eternal I did, I think the armor, despite being fairly dark, is still readable. And it isn't too complex of a process, but I think everything layers together nicely. So the plan is to bring up this guy up to that level. Bring him up to that same standard. The real reason for switching gears here is actually because I squeezed out way too much paint on my palette, and I don't feel like I should be wasting it, you know? There we go. These two brushes should be sufficient, and I guess for those curious, I'll mention the color used. Where is it here? There it is. It is Army Painter Hardened Carapace. It's a dull, dark brown, basically. Fairly desaturated compared to something like a Rhinox hide or even maybe a Dryad bark. But it's got just enough saturation, I think, to add some variance and increase that readability for the black armor. And I mix this with a little bit of gray sear, actually, for the brightest areas of the armor. And even then, we're not getting too bright, and those areas aren't too large. You can think of like edge highlighting and similar hot spots. Matt Gaming, welcome. Welcome. How's it going? It's going pretty well. Pretty well. Let's begin this guy with just filling in the underlayers of the cloth, the armored joints, if you will. I like to paint inside to outside. Well, I mean, where I can help it. It seems to allow you to paint kind of quickly, make a few mistakes because you're going to neaten it up as you go along. When you paint those outer layers. Actually, I think I left this guy in sub-assembly. There it is. Perfect. Perfect. That will do. You know, after the fact, I picked out this thunder or this lightning bolt symbol here in white, and whoops, let me pick that up. And honestly, after seeing how it looks, I kind of hate it. I think it looked better when the armor was mostly dark without this glaringly white lightning bolt. What's up with my focus? Why isn't it working? Let me see here. I think that's better. I think that's better. So when I get the brown colors going, we're gonna get rid of that white bolt. Dial it back, make it less intense. It should be more subtle. I think the focus should be on the shield and the weapons. I also don't particularly like blue as the choice for the weapon wrappings. Maybe that should be a beige or a parchment kind of color, maybe. Maybe like a Rakarth flesh, maybe with a blue wash. That could look, I think, more subdued. Probably look better. Matt Gaming says the models look very scrannable. I'm not sure I understand the reference there. Here's my reference model. I don't think there's any other cloth areas to account for. It's mostly just a metal plate, and then you got the leather components with the belt there. But that's it. Maybe we can just pick out the shirt, the turtleneck. Matt Gaming says, oh right, forgot we only use that kind of language. It's Scots slang, Scottish slang for tasty. Well, I appreciate that, Matt Gaming. Some tasty looking armor. Almost, yeah, kind of like a dark chocolate or something. I still think it's more black than brown, but it does have that warm, earthy tone to it. Which I think helps contrast nicely against the metal chainmail, or the scale mail, I guess, skirts. Yeah, more of a scale mail than a chainmail. I guess we might as well do those metal areas, right? That way, we can just go ham on the armor. Get those. Let's get those metal components out of the way. Matt Gaming says, so if something looks nice, we say scran. Ah. Okay, well now, whoops. Now I understand the context. I attached this comet emblem here. Not really sure what color I should make it. My gut intuition is that it shouldn't be the armor color. You kind of think you want those things to contrast. You want them to pop. Let's do the back edges of the scale mail here. Then I guess the belt buckle. Which, look, I'll be honest, the belt buckle might get lost as I'm painting the armor. We'll see. We'll try to be neat as we go, but might have to circle back at some point and redefine it. I think after these weapon, the weapon mount areas or the hilts are picked out, I don't think there's any other metal areas to account for. Kid Bash Carnage says, just a quick drive-by like. Hope all is well. Well, that is very much appreciated, Kid Bash. What a good guy. Drive-by likes are the only sorts of drive-bys I would condone. Now the scabbard and shield plate are going to be gray also, but well, I've already done the base color of the shield here. Not Gaming says, I'd say make the webbing wrappings should be beige. Should be beige. And then make the shoulder details a desaturated blue, maybe a mix between Fang and black. Like with a Leviathan blue shading. Interesting. Interesting to consider. Yeah, I was doing a little bit of research on the various Stormcast, what are they called? Not chambers. Or not chapters, I think they're called chambers, of the different schemes. And a lot of them feature blue. Seems to be something of a faction color, I guess. But I'm not certain how hard I want to lean into that. Okay, let us begin layering in the armor colors. So, just getting a bit of black off the palette here. Just game color, black paint. And we'll start mixing in some alien carapace. Is that what that's called? I know I mentioned it earlier, but for the life of me I can't remember. Hardened carapace is what it's called. Hardened carapace. It's definitely a trickier challenge to get those satisfying gradients with such a limited range. Right? Like you don't want to leave the black readability. Like you don't want to just push the value beyond that that range that would no longer read as black armor. Matt Gaming says, I definitely knew that was a thing, and I know lots about Sigmar, and that's how I made the decision. Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. So maybe we do want to feature some blue accents here and there. But I don't know if I want to make the whole shoulder pads blue. I know a lot of the Stormcast colors, or the chamber schemes, do feature a blue shoulder pad. But I feel like that strays too far away from the aesthetic. I'll get some gray sear and add it to the palette just to begin having that maximum hardened carapace range that I want to kind of play within. Right, so I put a stripe down on his leg there. That's kind of as bright as I want to go, I think. We'll see. I reserve the right to change my mind, okay? I think mixing in some glazing medium wouldn't hurt this process, but I don't know if it's necessary. I think the chunky gradations that aren't perfect kind of lend to the effect. It definitely appears to add a bit of texture to the surface, especially once the wash is applied. Because after these tones are set in place, the recipe calls for a Nuln Oil wash, and it seems to just bring out all the differences in paint layer, which I think adds to a kind of like battle-worn sort of aesthetic. I think it works. It works for the grimdark vibe I'm kind of trying to feed into here. Well, you can see on this lady, the armor looks pretty battle worn, pretty grimy. Has that, I think. It has the look of experience, which it's definitely what I'm going for. Though, since I have her here, as I mentioned, let's dial this back. She definitely has that look that says, "You have not seen what I have seen." Matt Gaming says, would a homeworld for a Space Marine chapter make sense if it was also a tomb world? Because the lore of my two factions is that my Sons of Incinder are fighting my British Necrons for who keeps their home planet. You could have a... I mean, I don't necessarily know if a Space Marine chapter's homeworld, which was actually a tomb world. So you're dealing with a kind of like a Diablo kind of situation, right? Where underneath your humble town is an ancient evil, right? This kind of theme. Look, I think if the Imperium knew the world was a tomb world, they'd probably just Exterminatus. Exterminatus is like a meme that doesn't really facilitate like long-term world building. I think it becomes too logical of a choice, and it doesn't allow stories to happen. So I want to disregard it. I think you can have a tomb world serve as your chapter's home planet. If it's like a defunct tomb world that's maybe not active or still in stasis, unbeknownst to the populace, or maybe they do know. Maybe that's a secret. You take a page of the Dark Angels a little bit. Friendly Neighborhood Inquisitor, how's it going? Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. How goes it today? Pretty good. Just chilling. I have a collab in the works that I'm looking forward to for the channel, so I don't want to say exactly what it is, but it's something to look forward to, I think. Should be interesting. Let's get more brown on that kneecap. Friendly Neighborhood Inquisitor says the only issue I can think of lore-wise with that idea is that Necrons check the Tomb World surface every 1,000 years or so. If they found humans on the surface, they'd awake. Oh, that's an interesting point to consider. Thank you for sharing that, Friendly Neighborhood Inquisitor. Of course, our Friendly Neighborhood Inquisitor would be knowledgeable on the Necrons' behavior. I like it. Seems like I missed a bit of the scale mail here. Look, I bungled up that plate. That's why I wanted to paint it first. Maybe the comet trinket he has on his hip could be gold. Sort of a nod to the regular Retributor armor Stormcast Eternal. It would certainly pop given the color scheme. Friendly Neighborhood Inquisitor says it could still work. That's not like a hard rule they check every 1,000 years, but the general time frame under normal circumstances. Mad Gaming says, I just came up with, they're still in stasis and my Marines didn't know it was a tomb world. I guess if you really want to force the theme, and I don't mean that negatively, right? But is it possible? Is it allowed in the lore for a Necron tomb world to be disconnected and detached from the normal routine protocols, right? Sort of an undead crypt, basically to simulate that kind of idea. It's just in isolation, no longer operating. Perhaps all the crypto thralls and all those canoptic guys that would do the upkeeping are missing or just failing to do their duties. Is it possible for a tomb world in stasis to fall under like those deranged kind of protocols that would fail them to do their duty? To do that upkeep, which would then allow you to have the setting you desire for your chapter. Friendly Neighborhood Inquisitor says it's definitely possible for a variety of reasons. Perhaps an error causing awakening protocols to not activate properly. Perhaps the world intentionally sabotaged by its dynasty because of rampant flayed ones or destroyer cult growth on the world. Or maybe a disgraced noble rules there and the world was sabotaged, etc. You know, I like that disgraced noble angle. That sounds like it can open up a lot of plot affordances. Now this is actually the side of the model I'm putting in the thumbnail, so maybe I should give it more attention. Matt Gaming says I'm going to go now because it's 11 p.m. Hope the hobbying goes well. Well, to that I say thanks for stopping by, Matt Gaming. I wish you a good night and a good rest. Pollux G, Francois, welcome. Oh, good evening to you as well. Francois says Sigmarines today? Yes, I won a couple Sigmarines in a charity raffle. And I was having a discussion about painting black armor the other day, so I thought, you know what, let's do a little bit of an experiment. And I quite like how it panned out on this one. It's a good, off black. I think it reads as black armor still, but it's definitely got some brown, earthy tones in there. And I mentioned it in the beginning of the stream. When I was painting that first model, I accidentally splooged too much paint out of the dropper bottle onto my wet palette, and I don't want it to go to waste. So we're painting another one. Pollux G says black still scares me. Yeah, it's a. I mentioned it in a previous stream. It is an armor color that I sort of avoid painting as well. But I thought maybe the time has come for a new challenge. Let's see if we can get somewhere with it. And I think by using brown and not straying too far away from that, kind of does the trick. So after all these areas get layered with our black, brown, gray sear blend, the plan is to hit it with a Nuln Oil wash, which should add some more readability, right? Push down those darker maximums of the range, and also add a nice bit of texture with all the layers of paint that we're putting down. I will return to the Orc Commandos, you can be sure of that. But for now, I don't want to waste all of this hardened carapace color on my palette. And you know what? A little bit of variety is good, right? A little bit of the hobby variety. Keep the motivation strong, right? Pollux G says, I have some orcs coming up soon for Blood Bowl. And they are called Black Orcs, so black armor it is, I guess. So you will have to take on a similar challenge. I think blue could also look really nice as instead of brown, you know, getting a cool black armor color. It's sort of how GW paints their Black Legion Chaos Space Marine sample colors. Francois says, anyone know how to dissolve super glue without ruining Forge World resin? How to dissolve it? Not sure. I know if you freeze it, the glue becomes weaker, and the bonds can kind of snap without damaging the model itself. And then from there, I guess you could file down the glue points. Francois says black orcs don't necessarily wear black, they have super dark skin. Well, the name checks out. And Pollux says, yeah, but I want to try to kind of stick to the box art for the starter teams. And on that, they look like usual orcs, but with black plates. I can appreciate that pursuit. Yeah, that's sort of the vibe I wanted for my Phoenix Lords. Even if there are, you know, non-GW sculpts, I wanted to have my Phoenix Lords in the colors that they're depicted as wearing, right? So that's why I painted my Osterman. Counts as close as I sort of could to the classic Osterman scheme. But with this new Spider Phoenix Lord, I didn't, well, as I said in the video, how was I to know that she wouldn't be in the colors of her aspect? They tricked me! And, well, I painted that model on the streams, on streams just like this, and it took quite a few streams, so I'm not going to repaint it. Let's get some more gray sear here, just to kind of... really make the geometry pop. Infinitely Curious by Olivia Green, welcome to the stream. Says, those orcs may look good with a black and touch of green. Francois says, GW totally ripped off your Artel spider. Well, it's not mine. And I don't know if there is deep, ancient, old Eldar lore for the Warp Spider's Phoenix Lord that maybe both artists were kind of forced to adhere to. That is a possibility, right? I don't want to say GW copied Artel. I wouldn't want to make such a claim. But I do like how apt my Countess ended up being. Because with every other Phoenix Lord Artel has, they already exist, right? Feels good when the gamble pays off is really what it comes down to for me. You know, I didn't even think GW would make a Warp Spider's Phoenix Lord. I think they deserve some credit for that. I thought that would forever be a background thing. And now I can play the Phoenix Force without having to beg people to allow my house rules for my Warp Spider's Phoenix Lord. So that's a win, right? And you know, I'll play it maybe like 3 or 4 times, and then I'll get bored of of playing 40k and just go back to painting, but that's okay. That's okay. I did play a game of Kill Team this weekend, and it was quite fun. Though the Blades of Kain Kill Team seem very good. I don't know how they scale relative to the other teams. I don't really keep track of the meta or competitive standings, but I feel like you're always able to do what you want and just put down whatever you need to very reliably. Flight of Icarus, hello! Welcome to the stream. I feel like a Warp Spider Phoenix Lord was a cool concept that could really only be one thing. Yeah, I think if you... Even without any lore background contextualizing the parameters of what the Warp Spider's Phoenix Lord is, I think if you had two artists and you told them, hey, I need you to come up with the design for a Warp Spider's Phoenix Lord, and you show them how Warp Spiders look, I think they'll probably end up at a similar endpoint. Like what's the coolest possible pose you could have for a Warp Spider? It's dynamic entry. Like every time, that's what it is, right? Though between you and me, chat, I think the Artel Warp-In is a bit cooler than GW's Warp-In. And you know what the other big win for me from that reveal was? Battle Focus. Battle Focus, baby. I was right. I was so pleased, so vindicated while watching that preview. Funnily enough, I even forgot there was a preview happening. And it was brought to my attention on a Discord server I'm a part of. And I was like, oh wow. Well, let me just tune into this. Surprise Eldar reveal. Surprise Warp Fighter's Phoenix Lord. And then surprise army rule changing to Battle Focus. Crazy. Okay, so I think for the shield edge, we want the bright areas on this side, and then yeah, we'll put the bright gray sear on this corner. Let's try and blend it over. Will it blend? It's a trick question. We can always blend. Flight of Icarus says, I'd honestly love to see a Crimson Hunter's Phoenix Lord, even if it's just in the lore. I like the aspects that embody more modern types of warfare. Yeah, the Crimson Hunters, it's not an aspect I'm especially fond of. But I can appreciate what you're saying there, Icarus. I can appreciate why one would enjoy it. I guess it would just be a fancier plane, right? It'd be a plane with, I don't know, even more weapons. It'd probably be like extra maneuverable. Maybe it'd be like an X-Wing. Or a Tri-Wing, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'm not especially... not especially a fan of the Crimson Hunters. The airplane aspects. Francois says the warp cabbage is greater than the warp web. I agree. Pollux G says, other than being happy for the guard players for all the Krieg stuff, I am still more stunned by the Pale Spear rumor engine picture than by the actual reveals. Yeah, GW's being cute. They're being so cute, aren't they? Is it Alpharius? I don't think so. I'd be surprised, and I have been before. But I feel like if an Alpha Legion relic is going to be... If a Primarch relic is going to be elsewhere, Alpha Legion one is certainly... Alpha Legion, or the Alpha Legion's Primarch's war gear is well suited to being used by other Legionaries, right? Other Legion Masters or Chaos Lords. Maybe it's a named character for the Alpha Legion. Finally, we'll get that vindication from the 8th edition chapter supplements that Chaos Space Marines never got. You know, it could also be an Alpha Legion kill team. That idea occurs to me as well. Because like I said, if any Legion is going to have false variants to spread confusion and deceit of a Primarch being around, it would be Alpha Legion, right? I could very easily see an Alpha Legion kill team leveraging weapons to make the Imperial War Machine think Alpharius is around, you know? That seems to be in their MO. Francois says Alpharius is too busy pretending to be Guilliman. Gross. No. That's obviously fake news. Obviously Alpha Legion wish fulfillment. Guilliman is most certainly Guilliman. If the novels are anything to go by. Unless you're proposing a kind of liquid ocelot situation there, Francois, then maybe you're onto something. But I doubt it. See, the problem with those kinds of mix-ups is the same problem with fan theories like, oh, what if a Primarch came back and he changed sides, right? And that problem is you're going to create massive amounts of feel-bads for anyone who is invested in that collection, right? Like, be me, Salamander's fan, collects Salamander's army, Vulcan comes back, but he's traitor. What the hell? What? Not even what the hell, like, what the fuck is that, right? Like, I would just be so... all triggered, right? I would be so like, why would you do this? Why would you take my reward for collecting this faction? And then you do the unlikely move of bringing this guy back to the setting. But then you bring him back and say he's not for you to use. Well, that's so out of touch, I think, with rewarding players who are investing in collecting a particular faction. Yeah, Vulcan Going Trader is an extreme example, but you know, in an alternate timeline, I'm sure it's plausible. What was it? Was it the Dornian heresy or the other fan fiction heresy? I can't remember. In one of them, I read Vulcan turns traitor. I think he turns into a big dragon demon who sits on the pile of gold. Personally, I hope most Primarchs stay gone, says Flight of Icarus. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Look, I am on the side of Primarchs returning, but if Primarchs return and don't do anything, i.e. the Lion, then what's the point of them coming back, is my position. I think you can do very interesting things to your setting and to the, you know, the story, if you will, with Primarchs returning. But if they just return and have no impact, no interaction with the state of the field, like, what are you doing? Just, you're like, it feels like you're fumbling. You had these awesome moments, or that you could have, right? These great character interactions or payoffs, narrative payoffs, right? Story conclusions. But instead, you just have them, like, disappear. It's like he didn't come back, you know? He'll return when we need him most. What is that? Pollock says, I'm okay with everyone returning as long as Horus and Sanguinius stay dead. Yeah, that's sort of my feelings on it. Those are the two that you kind of need to stay away. Right? I think even the Sanguinor is a bridge too far, in my opinion, but that's probably a spicy take. Flight of Icarus says, I feel like they overshadow Space Marine and Mortal characters too much, not to mention we have the Heresy, and soon the Scouring for their interactions. Yeah, that's exactly... That's the strongest point you can make for Primarch staying away. Undoubtedly, right? Like, how can Abaddon remain the big boogeyman of the setting if characters of bigger significance are around and doing things and are on the table now, right? It's a bit of a challenge, right? I think you really have to work. Really have to work from a creative, or maybe like a characterization point of view to make Abaddon remain as impactful. I mean, what would the argument be? You put him in a role like Horus, except he's Horus with his faculties, right? But he still feels lesser than, and kind of always will be, just by the classification he's in relative to the Primarchs. I think if Primarchs come back, you need to have... You need to have other bigwigs return as well, and not just Traitor Primarchs. Like, I think the Silent King being brought forward is kind of in line with what I'm speaking to here. Right? The Silent King is such a big deal, such a major problem. He would require, you know, one or maybe even two loyalist Primarchs to kind of contend and maintain the status quo of the Grimdark Imperium. Right? I think Ghazghkull probably could have been on that tier, but I don't quite know if they... If like, does Gaz power scale, or... It's a power scale issue, but also like a narrative weight issue as well. I mean, he is the prophet of Gork and Mork, so he's certainly of status, but... You can always change rules to power scale him where you need him to be. Or change the lore, right? I think given the way orcs operate with their power of belief, and the stronger the Wa is, the stronger the war boss is, the stronger Ghazghkull becomes, I think you have an easy narrative outlet to power up Gaz as strong as he needs to be. He doesn't have a fixed power level in that sense. We need to get more Gracier because I've lost the potency. Can only mix so much before it gets consumed by our darker colors. Iker says, I feel like Abaddon's reputation is a serious problem among the fans. He's just not taken seriously by a lot of people, which kind of sucks for someone who's supposed to be 40K's Darth Vader. Yes, I agree. The memes have gotten the better of him. The fail Abaddon, the guy who has 12 failing crusades. Yeah, all of that hurts his characterization. I think, like with many things in 40K, it comes down to like an adaptation argument, right? And it sucks because it's not. There's only one adaptation. There's just GW's attempts at writing the story, or building up the story as they have, I guess. Because the idea of Abaddon as a big bad Darth Vader type can work, but it becomes like oh, maybe you need to retcon it so he doesn't need 12 attempts to do something, right? And I think they have, right? Isn't there a soft retcon around all the crusades that failed were actually all stepping stones that led him to the grand plan all along, which was to open the Great Rift? Pollock says Abaddon gets so much of the spotlight that it makes it seem like the other characters don't do anything important, in my opinion. If we wait 10 more years, the newest Gaz model has to be as big as a small knight, since orcs never stop growing. Yeah, quite possibly. Quite possibly. I don't know if these knights are a problem in 40K. I think they're an awkward outlier of a unit type. Like, if you don't build for them, they stat check you. If you do build for them, they're kind of like a joke. They don't have the board presence. I don't know. Well, that's more of a game mechanics thing, not a narrative point of discussion. I think about most of the armor areas have been given some level of gradation from our blend here. At least all the upward facing panels. So is it time for the Nuln Oil wash? Maybe. Then we could go to highlights after that. Yeah, let's get the wash going. The wash will take a little bit to dry, right? We'll use a big old fat brush, because we're covering a lot of areas. And where's the... Let me find my Nuln Oil. Oh, we can try a bit of Flesh Shade, or Rakarth Flesh, and Colia Green Shade on the weapon wraps. I think I want a cool beige color for the weapon wraps rather than the dark blue. I think that'll be better. There we go. Flight of Icarus says, honestly, I think Abaddon should have put Marneus Calgar in a Dreadnought on Vigilus. Something, Pollock says something like that would feel like a win. Yes, I think, well, look, I actually have no problem with Calgar making the leap to Primaris, becoming as strong as he possibly could be, and then still losing to Calgar, and actually just dying, and Marneus as he is now is the model he ends up as. That's his final model. I think having Abaddon outright kill such a hero at their strongest, you know, crossing the Rubicon kind of point really cements how strong Chaos is, right? Even with the Primaris innovations and improvements, it's still insufficient, right? And that really creates a grim, dark vibe. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having characters and models that are slain and out of time. Like, GW has some aversion to this idea. Like, oh, if a character has a model, it must live forever. It's like, you know how epic Calgar becomes? How likable he becomes if he died on Vigilus? Like, he's a legend, right? Here's a new model, he goes to Vigilus and dies. I can respect that. That shows me you're not afraid to make your story and play with your toys. Because it really feels to me like GW is afraid to play with their toys. Okay, hopefully I don't spill this everywhere. Oh, you know what? There is one area of the armor I forgot to paint, and it's the shield emblem, which we'll have to do. It's kind of the face of this type of unit of Stormcast. Literally a big old face on the front of their shield. I am Alfarius has entered the chat. Okay, let's paint this face a little bit. Then we'll blend it to a darker color towards the bottom. And look, once that dries, we can... Actually, I'll just pick it out in the edge highlighting phase. The different layers that would catch light, such as the eyebrows and nose. I don't know if it's wise to paint that so early. If I'm being honest, those lightning bolts feel like well, you know what? Either way, we have to paint with precision, so maybe it is better to do the lightning bolts first, right? Yeah, let's do that. Misfit, welcome to the chat. Misfit says, I love the new Eldar and Guard minis. Yeah, they look great. Except for that creepy horse. That creepy horse with the lack of hooves. Grosses me out. Not into that model. But I can appreciate it. You know, I get it. But all those models look... Like it was a good reveal. Like the last two previews were pretty shit, in my opinion. But this one was all around good with a heck of a surprise towards the end there for the Eldar. Also, the announcement of like that a new detachment each day for an advent calendar, if my understanding is correct, was also a welcome surprise. I didn't really see anything like that coming, and look, it definitely gives me incentive to do daily streams, even if they're just quick. You know, talk about the new detachment a little bit, and do a little bit of painting afterwards. It could be a thing. I could see that. Nice. Okay, that should be sufficient. Alfarius says, at what the 40k, your semi-professional opinion is required. I have had issues with being mistaken for others claiming to be Alfarius. Do I change my name to prevent further confusion? I don't know how much you could make it clear. How much more you could make it clear, Alfarius. I am Alfarius, that you are Alfarius. Right? Other than to, like, add an exclamation point or, you know, something to that effect. If you make the statement too long, it becomes a bit like... It reads a bit like Cope, right? If you had, like, I am Alfarius, I swear. Like, if that's your username, no one's going to believe you. Pollock says, the more Alfari, the better I say. Look, Icarus, I thought the Death Riders of Krieg and their mutant horses were gross even when they were Forge World products. These nasty hooves. It's also the way they painted them, which is like, credit to the artist on that front. It's just the grossest. Okay, I think we're ready for edge highlighting. Which does suck a little bit, okay? And the reason why it sucks is because I thought I'd have time to do the weapon wrappings. But because I forgot to paint the shield, that's not the case. And we gotta prioritize the armor. Bit of pressure in that regard because of the stream's name and all. I am the Alfarius. Does this work? It's okay. Look, I like it less. I am Alfarius is the name of the old stratagem, is it not? Or the old warlord trait. I like it. I have a soft spot for it, you could say. I am not Alfarius. Nice. Well done. Flight of Icarus says, you know, I really wonder which Legion will get a kill team next, presuming GW will make one. Word Bearers, Iron Warriors, or Alpha Legion? Honestly, I would imagine it would be World Eaters, since I believe they are lacking anything in kill team. But between the three you described, I think Alpha Legion are probably more deserving of a kill team personally. That's where Alpha Legion should be excelling, right? That's an area where they should flex hard, is in kill team. Right? I think everyone would agree with that. Pollux G says they should be the kill team. Yeah, regarding Alpha Legion, totally. Totally. Flight of Icarus says, I've always thought the Black Templars would be great for a Deathwatch kill team with Sword Brethren and Crusader squads. Alpha Legion, Raven Guard, kill team, dual release. Not sure. Not sure about that. Omegon's twin says, with the 40k, what do you think GW is planning to do with Bjorn? The fact that he is still a box Dreadnought in the community post was interesting to say the least. Yeah, I think Bjorn is eventually going to be Legends. It seems very clear to me that GW seems only interested in creating Primaris units. Or modern, let's say modern Space Marine characters for the special chapters. Now, anyone can use any rules, any chapters rules now, because subfactions are no longer a thing. But they seem very hesitant to not touch infantry characters, as far as I can tell. So I don't know what will happen to Bjorn. He is a beloved character, but I don't know. I don't hate box dreadnoughts. I mean, I think they're quite charming. I think their scale still seems fine, right? Box dreadnoughts only look weird when Redemptors are on the table. Right, Redemptors are just too big. It's like modern GW design philosophy is like they want these big centerpiece creatures or vehicles, but I think Redemptors are too large, honestly. I don't know, you can look at the Blood Angels release, right? Like, did any of the Blood Angels Dreadnoughts get redone? Like, not really. You can just paint your Brutalis to look like a Death Company Dread or a Furioso Dread. That's what you can do. In fact, I think it's pretty obvious that GW seems to have intentionally incorporated the Blood Angels aesthetics into the Brutalis and the Ball Predators weapon options into the Gladiator, so you can kind of have your modern iteration of it without GW having to give you the unique unit, right? So yeah, we don't have a Bale Predator or a Bale pattern Gladiator, but look, you have the Gladiator Reaper, and it looks just like it, and you can paint it the way you want to, right? Which I don't... Like, it sucks for the people who lost their special Snowflake stuff, but I'm less empathetic to that because I am not a special Snowflake enjoyer. Right? Like, if we had GW writing rules that were in a paradigm more akin to older editions, where, you know, it would encourage you to kit bash and build it and realize it yourself, I think you would have unique chapter units for all chapters, right? And sometimes they would build a model for you, and sometimes they wouldn't. But you have the rules and the description, and you can You can take a stab at it and look. If it's really cool, maybe they feature it in White Dwarf. What a wholesome world that would be. That would be a real Warhammer community. I feel like the back of this this chest plate is looking real nice. So the Nuln oil dries in such a way where it creates areas of varying roughness almost. It creates a real good look. At least I like it. I think that the process makes the most of the underpainting that was applied. Omegon's twin says I've been forced into getting Lamenters. Well, Omegon's twin, you've done that yourself. To quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, you have done that yourself. Let's put a little line up on the back of this scapula. Just a little bit to bump up the definition. That might have been all out of frame or out of focus, but look, it's the thought that counts. I mean, these streams aren't exactly framed as, let me teach you how I paint. Okay. Looking at an hour and 45 minutes into the stream, let's build up this shield and a scabbard, because that's going to matter for our money shot. For the old before and after, I'll need some more of my gray. Actually, we can use Dawnstone here. It's sufficient. A bit darker of a base tone than Dark Sea Gray from Model Color, but I think it'll suffice. You have to build up to an off-white regardless, so I don't think it's a huge problem. Alferis is not my fault. Francois is goated. Well, you know, it's your fault insofar as you accepted the challenge. But look, I respect the gusto it takes to never back down. We'll layer up some Dark Sea Gray next, which is considerably brighter, and that should get us close. Pretty close to an off-white. Like the uneven application and different directions of brushstrokes, I think, lend to the worn kind of weathered look, which you'd expect a shield to have. At least that's the intention anyways. I think it turned out really well in the sample model. Oh god, there it is. There's the first goof. Let's see if we can remedy that a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is get a little bit of Lamian medium. Or actually, I'll use some glazing medium from Vallejo. I just want to add a drop to this gray sear I have on the palette. Pollux G says, I made sure most of the Blood Angels I painted back in the day that would have had yellow helmets didn't wear any. So you'd rather paint faces than yellow helmets? That's funny. Well, I can appreciate that. But you know what? I'm actually quite a fan of the Blood Angels helmet heraldry. I think that's a cool little flex for their chapter. think I would have a bunch of fun with that if I were a Blood Angels fan. Right, oh, adding some heavy support to my army. Better get some blue paint. If blue is the color of fire support, I think it is. It's cool. I almost went that way with the Firekeepers, but then I ended up going the Raven Guard route. Which is also cool, but less fun with color. I think we're getting some interesting texture on this shield, though. Which is a plus. Omegon's twin, says that what the 40k. At what the 40k does have any advice on an actually good yellow paint? I like. Well, look. It seems like a bigger issue with yellow is to just have a good base color, which I prefer. I have it here, Steel Legion Drab, like an earth tone like this. A nice tan color is a good base starting point for yellows. And then you have to layer up gradually, the same way you work with whites, unfortunately. It's a bit painstaking, but I think it's just the nature of chalkier pigments. As for our favorite yellow colors, I quite like this dirty yellow from AK. You know, it's still fairly bright for something called dirty yellow. And Flashgits from GW isn't terrible either. Right, if you just need, like, for your brightest highlights. But yellow pigments and white pigments, it seems like you just have to layer up from darker values incrementally. Or you go the subtractive route and use contrast, right? Start with a white primer or an off-white primer and just get an ink, basically, which is what contrasts kind of are. And then you build down, right? But I kind of like the additive approach to painting, the classic method. I think you get some interesting results, and it's kind of satisfying. A satisfying pastime. Pollux G says I was pissed off by the different colored helmets because they used ultramarine blue. I guess you're not a fan of the ultramarines. It's okay. Look, not everyone can be a cool guy. Northern Exile, how's it going? Boy, are you up early tomorrow. Yes! I wonder why. Perhaps there's something I've agreed to do that requires me to wake up early. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I am looking forward to it as well, Northern Exile. I think it'll be a fun little chat. Okay, let's build up the scabbard of this old knife, his emergency weapon, right? It's like if you have a sword and a shield, when are you ever going to use your knife? I guess if you throw your spear, right? Throw your spear, and it's gone. Maybe then he'll pull out his little dagger. Yeah, that's awfully bright. Didn't build up to that gradually at all. We'll see how that dries. That is the brightest. North says, call me North. I am off to make sure my kid is sleeping. Been happy painting. Love it so far. Oh, thank you, North. You take care. Pollux G says, I am whatever the exact opposite of a fan is. Fair enough. Look, to each his own. I have grown to like the Ultramarines more than I expected to over time. I wasn't really looking to become a fan of them because they are the least memeable, let's say, of all the Space Marine chapters. But enough good exposure with them has caused me to appreciate them. Pollux G says Ash Ketchum is a 10-year-old with 25 years of experience. Try to beat that. That's an excellent point, Pollux. How could you? He has the one ring that's keeping him young forever. Let us... How much time we have left? Oh, we're just past the 2 hours mark. How about that? How about that? Okay, we'll keep going for a little while. There's a few features I'd like to add to this guy. Now, benefits of hindsight, I probably should have started with a darker metal color. Could have relatively easily darkened the Vallejo metal color. Alright, let's try that Rakarth weapon rep. Let's try it out. Like, will this be a choice I regret? I'm not sure. Because it is a brighter color than the blue I went with, but you know, it doesn't have that saturation drop, but the value is certainly brighter. Tramari, how's it going? Sorry I'm late, I had other things to do. Look, I'll forgive you, Tramari, okay? I'll forgive you just this once. How does chat feel about leather colors? Like, what is your favorite color to use for your leathers? I quite like Dryad Bark, which I can't seem to find at the moment. It's like all the other browns have revealed themselves. Here it is. Shamari says it depends on what kind of leather you're trying to go for. Well, I suppose you are correct, Tramari. feel like he needs a bit more scratches and scuffs on his front-facing side. Let's see if we can make some more. Oh no, how did this happen? From working with our whites. Oh no. Oh no, what are we going to do about it? Okay, well I still have a giant pool of black paint and hardened carapace, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. I am not Alfari says tooth and coats make a nice brown. Jurassic brown. Or Cuirass brown. It's kind of funny how every other person is named after Alfarius, says Tremari. Yeah, something of a meme, I suppose. It's pretty neat. I support memes most of the time. I give these plates some good scrapes, you know? That's a bit too thick. Look, the lighting, I feel like, isn't doing the black armor any favors, but, I mean, if we tilt them a bit... What can I do here? Oh god, it's so bright. Does that help? Does that increase readability? feel like the black armor's looking pretty good, okay? This is my point. Unfortunately, I can't keep the lights like this all the time, because it's quite blinding to myself. Let's get that out of here. Be gone! Alright, so before we wrap things up, I want to see what happens when I put this Colia Green Shade on this weapon handle. And look, if it's a good result, I'll carry it through on his little side knife, and then I'll redo the same on this gal's weapons. Yeah, because you can see it's I don't know, I'm not loving the dark blue weapons. Pollux G says the light it burns. Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna mix this with some lambing medium, just to lessen it a little bit, because you know how washes tend to be. They are from concentrate. They are too pure most of the time, too strong. And I think almost always they benefit from, unless you're really trying to add contrast, I think usually washes benefit from diluting them a bit. Icarus says, I have a bit of a penchant for painting my models as niche canon subfactions or as my own creations. I feel like putting a little scene I feel like putting little scene factions on the table just makes the world of 40k feel bigger. That, Icarus, is a sentiment I wholly support. I get the appeal of wanting to, yeah, I play Ultramarines. Go Ultramarines. They're the coolest. They're on the box, right? I see the appeal. But there is a community service element of sorts with regards to your gaming club. If you field the Nova Marines instead of the Ultramarines, for example. The world just feels bigger, as you said. These little belt bits. Gotta pick those out, because that'll help add little areas of variance on the model to move the eye around. This is very important. You don't think these little bits are significant, but I would argue they are. Pollux G says, it's funny how the whole model looks unfinished in all black, and the moment the other stuff is done, bam, it looks ready. Yeah, there's a bit of an illusion there. I see what you're saying, Pollux. The shield. The shield's looking a little funny. I'll have to lessen that. That stippling, it kind of got overblown there. So, with regards to the weapon wrap, I think I'm going to have to sleep on it and reevaluate with fresh eyes, as they say. Not quite sure how I feel about it. Joe Herrick says, when does this get good? Well, Joe Herrick, I'm afraid to inform you, this is about as good as it gets. Also, this is AOS. Where is 40k? I'm taking a bit of a break from 40k for today's painting stream. We'll get back to Commandos next time. Really, I just didn't want to waste the paint on my palette. So this is what you are all subjected to, unfortunately. It's much like the weather, completely beyond my control. But thanks for tuning in. Alright, we are going to wrap up shortly, guys. After this metal color goes down, I think we'll have a sufficient before and after, and I'll call it quits on the hobby stream for tonight. You know, after applying through this experimental black armor painting scheme, or painting method, recipe, call it what you will, I think it's proven its worth. I think this will be how I paint black armor going forward. I just want to bump up the max brightness of this metal color on the scale mail skirt because it is one of the larger contrasting elements and an element of like it's a different material. Even though the white and black areas of the shield and armor contrast pretty strongly, I feel like they read as a similar material because of the metallic nature of the metallic paint is rather unique, only on this area. Yeah, I feel like this shield face, this Sigmar shield face symbol, and the gem in the forehead, as well as the gem on the weapons and various other parts of the armor, I feel like those areas are ripe for some bright blue OSL details. Like I'm thinking, not something as strong as a plasma glow, but I mean, keep it very subtle, paint the gem blue, and then use these recesses to carry through some white ink, cover it with some blue contrast afterwards. I think it would look really cool, like a enchanted weapon. Feels very suitable for a Stormcast. Probably paint the eyes glowing blue as well, just to push the effect. Though that'll probably be an off-stream experiment. Unfortunately, these streams can't go on forever, and I have a prior commitment for this evening. Let's use the edge of our brush to quickly sort of edge highlight these details. I think that should be sufficient to call it a done hobby session. Okay. Well, everybody, here's where we are. The black armor painting is a success. I quite like the look. Mind the autofocus. Which doesn't want to cooperate. Well, anyways, let's see chat here if there's anything I have to catch up before I wrap up. Icarus says if there's any army that can get me to AOS, it's Slaves to Darkness. Chaos is always class. Yeah, AOS has a very appealing model range. I feel like the sculpts are just more creative. I got these Stormcast as part of a raffle, and they seemed like a good opportunity to paint some black armor. But, you know, I don't really see the appeal to the Stormcast you know, when I thought of the range, just looking from the outside, it's kind of like lacking character to me. You got these faceless super soldiers, right? Is effectively what they are, with their death masks, and just lacking character. And but I found with the kits, the kit that I have here, anyways, they all had options for bare heads, and I'm like, well, wow. Now you have these characters that look more like heroes, more like individuals than these. I don't know, an army devoid of character, devoid of individuality. Like the idea seems to me that this is an army that these guys are all powerful, heroic, superhuman figures, but I think they benefit from the humanity of having their faces exposed. And unlike in 480k, you can justify it a bit better, since you're not dealing with space, outer space settings. Anyways, guys, thanks to everyone who tuned in for the hobby stream. As usual, the camaraderie, the hobby camaraderie that we share always goes a long way. Definitely fuels my motivation for putting some paint down. Anyways, with that,